Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of First Look. And in this edition of First Look, I'll be doing First Look, Spence versus Crawford. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into this first look. And with this first look, I'm just kind of analyzing this fight. This is not my prediction. My prediction will come later, but this is just my first look, kind of analyzing the fight and just making my points, I guess. So yeah, first thing I will say is you really got to watch the fights. You can't rely on highlights because highlights will make you think, oh, Crawford's the more technical boxer. He's the more slicker fighter. But that's not the truth. I feel like Spence's defense is much sharper. He defense shots better. And I feel Crawford get hit more often with bigger shots. Because again, when you're unorthodox, you have your hand drop a lot of times. You switch your stance. You don't have the best jab defense. A lot of times to avoid the jab, he switches stance. So it just take it away. That's the way he takes away the jab a lot of times by switching stance. Like he's getting out jab, getting out boxed. He'll switch stance because he's uncomfortable to give it a different look. Like it's like a reset for him, and the opponent got reset to him switching stance, and also he's better at once he switched stance, he's already more adjusted. So he already got a beat on you because he switched stance and he used to switch stances. So your opponent might have a beat on him when they like before he switched stance, and then once he switches stance, he already for the most part adjusted or at least got a beat on you because he's used to adjusting like that, and then you got to catch up to that. And like I say, he throws off your game with that a lot of times, but I'm already lost my original thought process. But again, going back to highlights, I feel like the highlights will have you thinking Crawford is the more technical boxer, but he's not. He's the more unorthodox fighter. He's the more crafty guy, and that's be dangerous. He's the more unpredictable guy, and that can be dangerous. Where is Spencer just like this immovable object or unstoppable object? Typically, like he has the fundamentals. He has the cleaner defense. Like, but it's nothing like no special necessarily about him. Like you kind of lacking that special. You don't have that. You don't have no sneaky jab. You don't have no like freakish power. He's not like 6'8" at 145, 150. He ain't that dude. But like ain't nothing that super stands out about him. But he has good fundamentals. He has the same work rate, just the same way you could say with Crawford. But again, I think Spence is a much better fundamental boxer, better defense. You don't really get hit with as many big shots as Crawford does. And the highlights could say different. Like they could show the Porter fight and like they both get hit with the same amount of shots, but Crawford's definitely getting hit with much more bigger shots. And we have seen Crawford get rocked by what's his name? Anyway, there's been plenty of fights. Crawford get hit with a lot of big shots against Hank Lundy. I'm forgetting that Cuban fighter right now. I'm forgetting his name right now. He used to be under 50 Cent. I don't know. I'm forgetting his name. Yorkie's Gamboa. So yeah, he get hit with a lot of big shots he shouldn't get hit with because he's an unorthodox fighter. He was definitely rocked against Yorkie's Gamboa. I think Lundy kind of stumbled a little bit. I think that little journeyman fighter he fought probably 2 years ago. Well, it's been a couple years, but probably about 2 or 3 fights ago now that really unofficially dropped him. You get hit with a lot of big shots, and that Spence typically does not get hit with. Spence has a much better fundamental boxing than Crawford. But the scary thing about that unorthodoxness of Crawford is that when he does, really get his groove, which a lot of times his coach is looking for. Like you can see a lot of fights, you'll note that Crawford's coach a lot of times saying he's struggling out there. They might say, "Are you concerned he's struggling out there?" No, he just hasn't found his rhythm. It's always like literally, I heard it in the Kell Brook fight, same exact thing. Like it's rinse repeat. It's just like a constant. It's a pattern. His coach would say, Kell Brook fight. He was getting outboxed by Kell Brook, and it's not even the best version of Kell Brook. He just needs to find his rhythm. Against Sean Porter was giving him some work. He just needs to find his rhythm. And you like in highlights could say anything, but I feel overall throughout that 12 rounds, both their fights, I feel like not Sean Porter, but Errol Spence fought a much better fight against Sean Porter. And I don't feel like the odds should have. I feel like the close scoring should have been as close as it has. I feel like most shots Porter was landing against Errol Spence weren't really all that clean, to be honest. And Errol Spence would land, just much more fundamental, much more economical. It landed a much faster shots. It shouldn't have been closer. I'm beginning missing the name. I feel Crawford, Terence Crawford. I feel like his he was having much more issue with Sean Porter, in my opinion, and having a much closer fight and was struggling much more than I feel Spence was. I feel like Spence was, handling. He was handling Crawford, Spence, Sean Porter much better than Terence Crawford was. But again, highlights can make you think a lot of things. Narratives can make you think a lot of things. But this is not me saying, oh, Errol Spence gonna win this, blah, blah. This is me saying I just feel like it's really me just kind of give my thoughts on highlights and how highlights have you dicketing. And even having people start to run with narrative like, oh, Terence Crawford is the more technical boxer than Errol Spence, which is not the truth. Terence Crawford is an unorthodox fighter, kind of more like, I'm not gonna say he's Emmanuel Augusta. He's way better than Emmanuel Augusta, way better. But I'm trying to say he's an awkward fighter. He's an awkward, unorthodox fighter. Fundamentally, he's nothing special. It's his unorthodoxness, his athleticism that makes him special. I mean, he's good fundamentally, but nowhere near phenomenal, nothing notable. It's his unorthodoxness that makes him dangerous. And in fact, also, he's like a ATV, like all-terrain vehicle. Like I said, he can be technical at times. He's definitely not the most technical guy. He might very well be the most scrappy guy at his weight class, or the weight class that he had fought. But he's definitely, he didn't want to say that his style is this guy that just out there to just go in the middle and swing and bang in the middle. He's not like trying to be no Roberto Duran or nothing like that. Or he, necessarily a brawler, but again, he's like ATV. Like, he can be technical. He's not the most technical guy. He's not the most standing man guy, but he can be in all territories. Also with that unorthodoxness and finding the rhythm, he can, like I say, he can create situations to which he needs. Like, he can outbox, he can make it a little bit scrappier. If he kind of struggling a little bit out there, getting out jab, he can eventually start to use the jab against you. Once he finds your rhythm of your jab, he can fire right over your jab, and you think you got your momentum, he finds your pattern, he gets his rhythm, and he's able to snipe you over your jab, or draw your jab out and attack you over it. So that's the scary thing about him. But I think what Spence is gonna need to do in this one, I feel like what Crawford's gonna do, he's gonna have to be himself, and at times make it a war. What Spence is going to do, I would feel like Spence is going to make it a war at times, but that's Crawford. Have to make it a war at times, because I feel like, again, I feel Spence is the more technical boxer, the more fundamental boxer, and I feel like his accolades show that as well. But he's going to make it a war at times, and then he's also going to bait Spence out there, lure Spence into patterns, and then draw out counter like he does. Like, they'll draw out the jab with people, fire over the top of the jab, and I feel like at times Spence can be a little bit lax. Like, he's not, most times he'll be sharp, but it's these little instances, and that's all it takes. One little instance, and Crawford get like to shift the narrative of a fight, drop you, still a round, still 2 rounds, still the momentum of the fight, or finish the fight. So, dangerous thing dealing with Crawford. But what Spence could do to thwart that is what a lot of people don't seem to do against him, or what nobody really does against him, or that I have seen, is you got to draw some face on it. You guys distort his rhythm. He relies on rhythm. It takes him a lot of times in these fights, rounds and rounds, to find his openings. And really, that's probably what you start out, just outbox him, what you could do for the early rounds, I feel, or what Spence could do for the early rounds, outbox him. But you start to get to those middle rounds, not the middle rounds, because it's really like the 6th and 7th round where you start to really find you. But the 4th, then you start to get into that 5th round, and that's when you got to start to flip the script on him. You got to start doing some feints out there more. You got to start, taking advantage of the rhythm that he's finding, or the openings that he's starting to, gather his intel on you. And then he starts to try to take advantage of in those 5th round and beyond, really those middle rounds. He starts to, use the intel he gathered. And then on there, you got to flip the script on him, because that's what he like to. He like to flip the script on you later rounds, or those mid rounds. He like to flip the script on you. And that's the time to flip the script on him and start drawing more feints out there. And he starts to see the stuff, start to see how he's responding. So now in those middle rounds, he start to see how you respond. But now you give him blank checks. Like, he start to reach out to grab those blank checks, because you think, oh, he's gonna do the same exact thing for round 1 to 12, or he start, his own instincts, his own rhythms again starts coming in. His own reflexes start to draw anything, because now he started to lock in. This is where I'm gonna kill him at. This is where I got him at. And again, throw those feints out there, foot feints, jab feints. Just start throwing stuff out there, and then you start to counter him. Like, you see him now, he's off balance. He already, like I said, in his mind and in his instincts, his muscle memory, and all this stuff he's gathered, this was where the kill shot was. And now he's going to throw with such confidence, because that's what he's so used to. And then he's going to, like, say, his shot will be right on money for where you would have been. Now he's off balance. Now you go back to ripping his body. Spencer's an amazing body snatcher. So ripping the body, throw him off balance, ripping the body, and then start pumping the jab back at him, ripping to the body, keep that guard high. Again, don't drop those hands. Spencer's good at that. Keep his hands high. Like I said, it's small instances where he drops his hands or get a little bit lax. But for the most part, Spencer's one of the best guys that he stand fundamentally sound and stand strong to his sense. But yeah, so flip the script on him in those later rounds, those middle rounds. Throw some face out there, foot face. Just like mix it up on, create some different angles, some different setups. And again, probably really just throw a couple feints out there more and just start to make him reveal his bag of tricks, and then make him have some more rounds to adjust and get his rhythm back, throw off his rhythm because he relies heavily on rhythm. He's not a fundamental he's really not that fundamentally sound technical boxer. He's not. So if you're thinking that, you're wrong. He's not that guy. He's an amazing athlete. He's a solid boxer, got good fundamentals, but he's not a great fundamentalist boxer. He's not really a notable one at all. He's an unorthodox kind of a drunken seller type of fighter. Let's say he got the skills, but he's not a technician or a fundamental technician. And there's nothing wrong with that to an extent, but yeah. But yeah, as far as Crawford, what he got to do in this one, be himself, but he got to make it scrappy at times because again, Spence is a adorable guy. He's a world class guy, the best guy that. Matter of fact, both of these guys are the best guy that either guy has fought ever. So dealing with a more technical guy, he gotta be unorthodox. He gotta lure Spence out of his game. And part of doing that, and part of what he needs to do to lure him out of his game is gotta make it scrappy. Gotta make Spence uncomfortable. And gotta draw it out of him. I think Crawford has definitely shown to be much better, or at least has made that a strength of his to make fights scrappy. Go out there, sometimes drop his hand a little bit, rip some shots to the body, rip some shots top. And I think also body shots could be effective against Spence. I didn't like how he responded to the Ugas fight. I don't know if it was a case of he injured his hip in that car accident or whatnot, but he was ripping Ugas to the body all day. But the moment Ugas started hit him to the body, you start seeing him get very defensive down there. And so, Spence is a body snatcher, so, but it don't seem like he body shots all that well either, or doesn't respond to them that well. So Crawford can see some shots to the body well. That could be a good path to victory for him. Making the fight ugly at times, which he'll need, is going to be a very important factor for him. And ultimately just ban him. So as the fight goes on and he starts to find patterns or he's able to establish a rhythm, I feel this fight could easily be an early on case where Spencer looked like he just dominated this fight. The bigger man bullying Crawford around the cage a little bit. Not that's the cage, the ring a little bit. Or a lot of it. But then Crawford had been able to make the fight scrappy and fire him back and not allowing Spencer to just bully him. It turned to a very scrappy fight. I think it's going to be a very exciting fight. It just turned to a scrap fest out there. The guys just throwing back and forth. Just trading in the pocket. Both guys fighting for a position in there. And then I think Crawford again could rip him to the body well. That'd be a good thing against him. And then be able to lure the jab out of Spence, and able to bring shots over the top or around the corner on Spence, and that could be his path to victory. So I think it's about being himself, but also about taking Spence out of his zone, so that those counters will be there more. Because again, Spence in his zone, for the most part, he's a very solid defensive guy. Also, he's a dog too. He ain't a guy that's just gonna be like, oh, you hit me one good shot, now my coach is on in the towel, or I'm not in there anymore. Spencer's gonna go down on his shield. Crawford's gonna go down his shield. So you don't expect a fight between two guys that's not gonna be no quitting them. But yeah, Crawford for sure. I feel he got making a dog fight, and he got to throw Spence out of his game because Spence typically Spence when he's in his zone throughout the fight, it's only probably a few instances where it's going to be those openings for him to land those shots that he's typically able to come back in these fights and win against elite competition for Crawford. Crawford, typically against elite competition, he's kind of getting a little bit lapped a lot of times in these fights, or he's kind of down on the scorecard a lot of times before he finishes. So I can see the same exact pattern here, or the same exact issue for him there, but it's going to be harder for him to make that happen in this fight because he's going in with the best fighter he's ever fought. And same with Spence. But again, I feel like Errol Spence Jr. is the more technical fighter, more fundamental fighter. And yeah, that's my take on this one. Don't know which way to lean right now, but I think both these guys are very skilled, and it makes for a very exciting fight. It might not sell that multi-million or 2 million or might not even touch 1 million pay-per-view buys, but this is going to be more than worth it. It's going to be a good fight right here. Excited to see it, and I'm excited to predict it when that time comes, but very much on the fence with this one. Both of the guys are very good, and both guys have their paths to victory. They both should have good success at, or have very good chance to be successful at their styles. So both guys have strengths that they actually have very good paths to beating each other. They both can be, matter of fact, the fulls to beating each other. They both have the styles. Probably, matter of fact, probably the styles to beat each other. Like they literally have beat styles. It's not a case of they're both just good and they have different styles. And it's like, I don't know, it could be this way, this way. They literally both have the style to beat each other. Like literally, they both are almost tailor-made to beat each other. So, matter of fact, who's gonna be better able to enforce that style upon their opponent or enforce their will upon their opponent? So, good fight. And that's the video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.